Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of On the Reg. I'm your host, Matthew Regine, and I'm joined by Derek Brenner. Welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you, sir. Derek's been in marketing for over 8 years. I consider him one of the best digital tool specialists in the world. And frankly, he's a huge resource that I rely on. So I think this is going to be a really fun episode.
I appreciate that. And I feel like most of the time when you tell me you omit the word specialist, I just hear biggest tool in the world. So it's nice to hear the full context. Happy to be on the pod.
Well, speaking of the pod, this is for marketers, entrepreneurs, business owners, anyone looking to improve their productivity and their leadership.
Fantastic. And do you refer to it as the pod? Do we have like a slogan yet?
I think the ceiling would need to be a little bit more curved, to be a pod.
The pod.
Maybe some water
pod,
and our, soak our feet while we're filming an episode might be something to think
That'd
about.
be great. Get the little fish. I've always wanted to do that. Little fish, they come up and they they eat the little skin, I guess, off your feet, and it's good for exfoliation.
So don't really know where to go from there.
Yeah, no, that's right, dude. You're rolling. We're rolling.
Well,
you've
today,
got questions for me.
Yeah, we're going to talk about marketing. We're going to talk about automation, and of course, everyone's favorite buzzword. We're going to talk about AI. I want to jump in with, you've been in marketing over 8 years, and I want to know what excited you about this field early on, and what changes have maybe dissuaded you from marketing? Because I know I'm not sure you would consider yourself a marketer at this point. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. I think that's a good jumping off point because a lot of people that find themselves in marketing, I don't know that we always started or were like, I'm going to be a marketer, right? Like playing in the backyard, put your cape on. Someday I'm going to be a marketer. And for me, it's something that I technically went to school for. And I went in a totally different direction. I went the outdoor hiking, adventure, tourism route, and then actually just landed back into marketing. And I think the piece that drew me into the world that I'm in now, was a little bit of hey, there's all this tech going on. I want to be about it. I wasn't really a coder, so to speak. And so marketing was kind of I don't know, a place for someone with layman skills to kind of get involved. Where you're a lot of this stuff is pretty intuitive. It can be taught. I don't need a special background. And even the marketing, I would argue that a lot of the, schooling for marketing today, I don't know that it's going to hold up, the test of time.
Did you take marketing in college?
Oh yeah. That's what I have a degree in technically I actually have a degree in marketing and entrepreneurship, whatever certificate.
See, I was business.
Okay, yeah.
And back when I went to school,
yeah.
For some reason there weren't specialties. They're hey, just take more classes in one discipline and call yourself that thing.
Yeah,
so
figure it out.
I took some marketing classes, and I mean, there's some really cool ones. Neuromarketing was awesome. That one was super fun. But realistically, most of it was theory.
Yeah.
And it's wild to me that marketing, in my mind, inundates every area of business.
Yeah.
And the fact that schooling didn't really have any actual technical knowledge or hands-on training of hey, this is how people buy things. This is the type of design work you should expect. This is the structure of a team you're going to be working with. That blew my mind.
Yeah, that's super valid. But even as you said that, the neuromarketing, I fail to recall any particular class that I would have taken, except for there was one called Social Entrepreneurship. Shout out to Joe Salentic. Still stay in contact, University of Iowa. Let's go Hawks. He taught a particular class that was called Social Entrepreneurship. And really the big takeaway at the time, this is, mid 2000s, dating myself. And it was really about the externalities, the additional costs that businesses take on and socially, how are we actually how do we account for those things? And also, how do we do marketing that's good for people and not just the profits, right?
Yeah.
How does the business, and again, I guess I say marketing, but it's really more business. How do businesses continue to work, support the customers that they serve? How do they serve those customers in a way that isn't just extracting value out of them? So that was ahead of its time. The rest of it, I don't know that I could recall particular classes. Everything else has really been, an experimentation, learning on the job. And I would say I'm just fascinated. I was a Lego kid growing up. So I like to follow a process. I like to build. let me learn the building blocks. And then also like, I'm going to go make my own thing now. I'll find that piece that fits with here. And so something about that still plays out in today's world.
Honestly, I think it's super interesting because like you're a Lego kid. You go and you do the building blocks of digital architecture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine like the Fortnite kids now. Like, what are they going to do? Are they just going to be exploring the metaverse? Like the difference in how our brains developed.
That's a good point.
Is pretty wild when you go from physical activities to predominantly digital for kids these days.
Yeah, I've never played Fortnite. I give an idea. I know it's like a Call of Duty-esque with some like dance moves, but yeah, that's a good. Point. Minecraft, I think, is another one in that realm of like, what are the types of games that shape your world as you're developing, and then how does that translate as an adult in the careers you pick?
I think Fortnite is the preeminent example of microtransactions and digital currency out of anything that exists. Nice. I don't care.
Is that one where you can buy like custom skins or
buy skins?
Skins.
And it's like,
I'm a skin trader.
I think as older people, it might be hard for us to be like, okay, this brand needs to live in the metaverse. And honestly, I hate that they try to coin that term for themselves. That's wild. Whole nother topic. But brands living in the metaverse, it feels foolish to me.
Yeah.
But then you have kids playing games like Fortnite, and it's like their favorite creators are part of the game. There are brands that are part of the game. Their personality and their appearance isn't their physical appearance. It's their digital appearance that matters to them.
100%. Yeah. From a social status standpoint, I've got a friend of mine who his kids, I'm not sure exactly which game. It could be a Minecraft, could be a Fortnite thing. But then like even like boys and girls playing together, there's like a dichotomy of like how they interact, social. And like he basically was telling me that his son, was buying stuff for their his Minecraft girlfriend, basically, to like, and they're like home, building their own like home in the, again, in the metaverse and the Minecraft world. So it's,
babe, I built you this digital home.
I made you a castle.
I proposed to you online. Did you not get the invite?
Oh yeah. I hit my spam. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Didn't see it. Yeah.
All right. So honestly, this kind of segues pretty well into something I want to talk about, which is how marketing shifts over time. So what have been the biggest trends you've seen? And not just marketing, obviously digital too, ops, sales, whatever you want to dive into. What have you seen in the last 10 years and what are you seeing now?
Yeah. So this is a great opportunity for me to talk a little bit about World War II. And, I know you think I'm being facetious, but I'll tie this together. So World War II, you've got Japan in particular. We're talking about Pearl Harbor happens.
Okay.
Right. December 7th, 1941, I think. And it really changed. What's interesting about the dichotomy of what Japan was doing revolutionized naval warfare. And so right after Pearl Harbor happens, basically Great Britain loads up I think it's called the Prince of Wales. At the time, it was one of the largest battleships ever constructed. It was like, I've heard it described as like a stubby Titanic, but just guns, cannons, And so they fly, basically they like sail out and they're like, hey, we're going to go mess you up, right? As you go to have this naval battle. But what Japan did is they basically revolutionized the aircraft carrier. And so they had a boat, right, that could launch planes off of it. And essentially this battle, the elite battleship of the time that Great Britain owned, spent, I don't know the exact number of years, but somewhere between like 5 to 10 years actually building, constructing. I mean, at the time would have been worth, in today's currency, like
trillions.
Probably, exactly. Yeah. Billions of dollars, right? To build this thing, so much sweat equity going into this. And essentially like 6 airplanes sunk this battleship. It just wasn't, it was an asymmetry in warfare. And so, and the economics of building 6, planes, right, was like a few $1,000s, right, for the Japanese. So where I want to tie this all together is Japan revolution. They're like, oh, snap. And it's one of those things where it was all theory until they met in the open water in the middle of the Pacific. And then Japan, the theory won out. And so I think in marketing, we're tying this together. What's the shift that we're seeing here is, we'll get into the AI piece, but it's becoming this asymmetry where like an individual tooled with, like AI at your fingertips can now disrupt, the big brands, the big agencies, the these basically legacy structures that, while they cost millions and billions of dollars to build, and like there's systems in place. And now you've got this asymmetry where, an individual or a smaller subset can come in and really change the game.
See, where this takes me is your example very much kind of brings forth speed as like one of the primary things.
Yeah. Swiftness.
And in marketing, that would be adoption,
Yeah.
right? Or pioneering. And something that I'm always on the fence on is I'm a pretty straight edge marketer. I don't mess around because I don't really think that the short-term gain of certain things is going to outweigh the long-term benefit of staying the course. And I'm not saying rest on your laurels or don't do anything. What I am saying is that, hey, if this is something we know is going to bite us in the butt,
right?
So gray hat, especially black hat, should we do it because we're going to get short-term benefit out of it? And so, I mean, some companies were built on short-term benefit, 100%. They would not be where they are today if they didn't capitalize and seize these opportunities. But if you create your foundation off of something like AI, where it's like, hey, this is eventually going to be frowned upon by humans, in my opinion, and we'll get into this, but like eventually going to be frowned upon by humans. Google's not stupid. It knows you're using AI. Teachers have tools that tell them you're using AI. So it's like, where's that balance in your mind?
Yeah. Well, and I think we can get into this about like what exactly is AI and not AI, or what's an algorithm. But I would say for the most part, it's, AI really, when we talk about artificial intelligence, we're really talking about using that as a tool to get to the end result, which would be, that dynamite piece of content, video that can be created and scaled up quickly, right? A video editor. I mean, there's all these applications of how AI is being used to really deliver the end product is going to be unique and specific to the business, to the end customer, the end user. So, and that's what I would say the swiftness that we're seeing coming out is, where that used to take 4, 5, 6, a team of people to create. And you start to stack this where you need much fewer resources, and you can kind of, you can scale this thing up. It takes a couple airplanes to sink a battleship.
So you're looking at it, what it sounds like is mostly from a process, systems, productivity standpoint, rather than purely outcome driven standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is probably where you're going with it as well. Like, in a world now with is like the most accessible AI, I'm sure a lot of people have played around with like ChatGPT, right? I can go in there, I can ask some questions, I can have it create a blog post. I could ask it to create 10 blog posts.
I've only used Bard.
So. And Bard, yeah. This video is brought to you by Google. Yeah. My sponsor. And so the piece of like, oh, you could make an infinite, I mean, I could sit at home all day and I could make whatever, I mean, literally an infinite amount of blog posts, right, for a given topic. And it could come up with all the variations, right?
Right.
We could do that. And I think you and I would agree that that's not actually going to make a difference in the business, right? And these are the things like Google would frown upon. Okay, now all of a sudden I have 10,000 blog posts, on my roofing website. Well, that's not going to change. I don't think that would change the SEO rankings. And so, there's changes always happening in the algorithm. And really, if we like try and pin down what are these search engines, or say search engines like in like the YouTubes or whatever, their own engine trying to deliver content to the end user who wants to consume that. They're in the business really of delivering the thing that's the most useful, right? They want to. Yes, exactly.
So I think the thing I always tell clients when they're getting pitched by these $4,000, $10,000, $20,000 SEO companies, I say to them, what are you trying to accomplish? Because these companies in their pitch deck, it's always, look at all these technical things we can do. Look at all the posts and all the content. And it's
title tags, meta descriptions.
Realistically, Google wants people to get what they want.
Yeah.
If people don't get what they want.
Yeah. If I search for pizza near me and I get hardware stores, I'm going to stop using Google.
You're going to stop using Google. Yeah. So number one is you have to create immediate value for the end customer or consumer. But the other part is Google wants to keep you on the platform.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
Is Instagram altruistic and like, oh, we just want to give people great content that they can enjoy? No, Instagram is we want to keep people on the platform so we can advertise to them and make money off of that. And so that's with Google too. Google knows that keeping you using Google is by giving you the best results for your query, but it also has the ulterior motive of we need to make a bunch of money by advertising to these schmucks.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say in those two, there's a slight difference where Instagram really is the true attention economy, where like the longer you stay on there, the more opportunity we have to advertise to you. Google is slightly different in the business of trying to give you the thing you're looking for, but also like expand your, like you were looking for birthday cakes, but also, and the path I see Google going is now also here's the birthday candles, right? And have you thought about this? And you're going to need the cake slicer to go with it. Like, that level of like personalized advertising and trying to like, oh, but did you forget? Like, I think Google's going to be more in the like the add-on economy of like, you were looking for this, but also you didn't realize that you're going to need this. Oh, you're building a podcast studio. Not only are you going to need the microphones, did you think about these, extra batteries or, you fill in the blank there. So, but in general though, the AI needs to be good at giving you what you want, not just, AI isn't just like, oh, we'll just make as much as possible.
Well, I think the third thing that we need to consider is that Google, in my mind, is progressing towards a data warehouse, the best and most robust data warehouse. And they are framing it in a way that destroys their competition and acts like they're doing justice to the customer by protecting their data. When realistically what they're doing is they're siloing this data from every other business out there. And eventually they're going to say, hey, we're the only ones with this insane amount of data based off search, based off intent, based off all the things you just mentioned in terms of upsells, cross-sells, predictability. And so I think that's pretty wild,
Yeah. Yeah. You're talking about, if you're saying from like you mean like from I have an AI, we're going to get into the weeds here, but I have a learning language model, right? And I am saying, hey, Google's saying, oh, we have this data set, but we're not going to let you use it unless you essentially pay for it. Or our data set, our AI, our Bard AI is trained on this data set. These other competitors are not. We're essentially saying like we have the most data. Ours is the most reliable, AI model. Is that?
I don't really have a point or a takeaway to that end, but something I am considering is there's no way that Google's going to replace search results with AI. It's just not profitable for them unless they do what old school television did, where you have commercial breaks in the middle of your output. Hey, here's here's the law output that you wanted. Here's the legal document. Yeah. But you actually have to wait.
I hear what you're saying.
Or pay or whatever it might be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I got you. You're making the distinction between like, and I think I see some of this now, even if, if you search on your phone, like I have the Google app that I use for searching, right? And it'll be like kind of the top section, if I'm asking a question, what was the ship sunk by Japan in World War II?
Sure.
It's going to like give it like a little like it used to, just pull up the top search result and then you clicked in that search result and there was your information about it. Now it's already kind of answering the question and pulling some information in there. But I'm seeing more and more of the like I think they're going to integrate shopping more into that lane. And I think it's going to be a super, like, I could see AI playing the role of you have more of an intelligent search in the same way that they have that sections like people also asked for. I think they're going to try to, exploit those things, or, hey, you're going to need to think about this. So it's the same method, right? I still want to keep you into the lane that is Google search. I don't want you leaving, right? This was even actually before AI really took over, right? They still had some stuff where it would pull in like if you were asking a question, it would just answer that question. Yeah. Right. So you never left Google. You never went to a
knowledge
website.
Graph.
Yeah. Yep. And I think it's become more and more of that. And I think that we'll see more of a, really, maybe this is a good launching point to talk about what AI is, because I actually don't think it's anything different than an algorithm. I mean, I think it's a lot of buzz, but really what we're talking about is this is an algorithm. This is a process. We've just developed a better process essentially at predicting the next letter and the next word. It's quite, it's fascinating if you want to geek out on what is a language learning model or large language learning model. But it's not something spooky or like, there's an artificial. in that sense.
Well, I think this is the biggest thing with the data you're feeding it. And again, it's not going to be fed data if everything turns to AI. AI can't feed itself.
Yeah.
Debatable, but like depends on what you're feeding it, and it depends on what you're prompting it. So I am curious how if eventually like you're not even gonna need to prompt it, Neuralink.
Yeah.
It's gonna predict what you want to prompt before you even think of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think with it as a learning model, there are pretty big differences between that and an algorithm. An algorithm is a massive data set, right? And it's based off of, typically speaking, it's going to be based off of metrics, right? Whereas I think AI isn't really metric based. It's more of it chooses what the output, it interprets the data based off of metrics, but it can still come up with an answer that's wrong. And that's where like you have the ghost in the machine and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think, and this is like where, like technicality, like it's still the same. And this could be me. It's okay if I swear on this podcast.
Sure.
Talking out my ass. Which is my understanding is that, yes, you have these big data sets, but essentially you're giving it like it's gamification, right? Where we're teaching it like this is good. This is a reward, right? These are points. These are rewards, right? This is the thing you're trying to get for. And so you're teaching it to predict and rewarding that. And yes, it can come up with these like ghosts in the machine answers, like, oh, like, why did you think that, Reggie's birthday was on this date, on whatever, like you made this thing up, And so the predictive piece of it is, yes, you have lots of data and you're just teaching it, and you're just, the thing that gets output, like the thing that is OpenAI is literally like a pack. I mean, it's not that large of a file, and it's essentially, it's learned patterns. And so it's basically condensing big data, found the patterns, and now you have that. Now you can communicate. It is a fascinating process. And again, I'm talking out of my ass. I've listened to a few podcasts on the actual inner workings of it, but it is a fascinating breakthrough. Just when you think about, there's some similarities between what we've done with large language learning models, LLMs, and what our human brains do, where you have like there's all this stuff, this information that gets condensed down and it becomes pattern seeking. And so it's what's the pattern and how good is it at predicting, that, oh, I see this pattern and can I predict the next thing? And so, some stuff, while it looks like, and as we interact with it, it feels like there's something there, or like you're, again, this breakthrough in, I'm not gonna say consciousness or anything like that, but a breakthrough in like there's something on the other end, or it's really just it's prediction.
Well, I think honestly, kind of full circle here is that there's a man behind the curtain, right?
Jeffrey Bezos. Okay.
So if Google wants to lead you a certain way,
yeah.
AI,
there's a finger on the scale.
Yeah. It's like, at what point is it? Have you seen Wanted?
Yeah.
It's like, hey,
Is this the movie where they burn?
Yeah, they bend the bullets. He's like, this God told us like, hey, these people need to be eliminated. And then eventually we decided to start choosing who need to be eliminated. But the thing is, everyone under it who didn't have knowledge of that, didn't care. They felt like it was, hey, this is divine or whatever it might be. Same thing with AI. It's like they'll trust it, and then eventually someone, when the right question comes up, they're going to be the one inputting whatever their desired response is.
I love it. Yeah, that you remind me. Morgan Freeman, kill this motherfucker or shoot this motherfucker.
That's not Morgan Freeman.
Yes, Morgan. Yeah, dude, Morgan Freeman's in that movie.
That's Samuel Jackson.
No.
Oh, you're right. No, you're right. At the very end. Okay.
He's like the leading the. But yeah, I think that's just there is a little bit like, while there is some sort of like, wow, there's this emergent thing we're experiencing that is AI. It's also, it's not that like there's like this secret sauce that we're pouring. Like it is just large data predict, right? And, there is a little bit of, you can ask the question of like, well, is it more data equals better? I don't know if that's actually true either. We're seeing some of the stuff like, is every YouTube video that's ever been created actually helpful? Right. And talking about like data silos, in some cases, you may want to actually silo off and say, hey, this data we want to, like when we want to train models on, is actually, we want to be a little bit more intentional about the data we provide, as opposed to like the more is better, right? Like just think of all of the worthless YouTube videos and like random blog posts that have been created. Like, is that helping? Is that contributing to?
I love archaeology because it's like we dig back thousands of years and we're like, oh my God, look at these things that these people wrote, or look at this journal that this person had. And the reason it's so special is because there are so few examples. And now we got libraries of books. We got, I don't know the statistic, but it's like 100,000 websites get created, way more than that, probably.
A second.
An insane amount of a second. Okay, so I was right when I was
billion stars in the galaxy. Yeah.
So it's like, like, what are you basing this data off of? And again, eventually, what's the man? What's the motive of the man behind the curtain?
Yeah.
Who's pulling the strings?
Yeah.
And if no one's pulling the strings, that's even scarier.
Yeah.
You know,
I think this is, I mean, I've listened to Tristan Harris is a podcaster, speaker. I forget the book he's written, but his whole thing is like, we should be very wary of AI, and he gives some great examples of like weird stuff that's happened. And like, if we're just racing towards the eventual, where it becomes more intelligent, connected to the internet, is it actually making moves without our knowledge? But one of the things that, my understanding, like the thing that he's most scared of is, it seems to be an initiative that is basically who can build like the most advanced AI thing so that it can then stop other AIs, right? Like the idea is like, oh, we'll just build a better one so that it can stop like the ones that are, as if there's a bad actor, right? It's, an AI that's helping people, create, biological weapons, right? And it'll somehow, stop them.
Or shutting down an entire
infrastructure grid. Yeah, exactly. You can come up with it's not hard to imagine a lot of things.
It's really not.
Wrong. Yeah. And so it also seems like, there's always that like, is that the self-fulfilling prophecy? The thing where like, oh, we need to create this thing to protect us, that becomes ironically the thing that is the down.
I think you didn't really explicitly state the question. What's the goal?
Yeah.
What's the goal of having AI? We're losing authenticity. We're losing more personal connection with things. For what? What are we gaining from it? I want you. It's not rhetorical.
It's a good question. I mean, have you seen the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix? Basic concept is the future has an AI, and you have like it's almost like you're a therapist, but a lot of the people like almost fall in love with their AI that's on their phone and they interact with, and right.
That's already happening nowadays.
Sure. Oh yeah. And basically, spoiler, but basically like he has this intimate relationship, and the AI really gets it, right? And like you're seeing everything kind of through his perspective, and like he feels heard and empathetic, and it's, there's this weird like, man and machine symbiosis. And then like the downfall is when he realizes that everybody else has that same relationship with her, right? With the same AI, right? And so I can't imagine a world where, in the same way that when you sign up for your Google profile to get your Gmail account, they ask you for like your birthday, right? And some very basic, I mean, I don't even know what other questions are really in there, but you can also imagine where like now your Google profile knows all the sites that you visited, and it reads all of your emails, and AI and now it knows
they just announced that incognito has always tracked every single thing you've done in it.
Shit.
Nothing you could do about it. They already got all that data.
By the way, there is a throwback side tangent South Park episode where like everybody's internet history becomes available.
Sure.
I think I want to say Fort Collins is involved. Like it's like takes place. I have to go back and look, but I remember it being, it's like, oh, whoa. Anyways, all this is already going, again, all of the data, every Google Doc you've ever created, Google has, it's not like, it's access. So now there's two ways you can go. We can go more into this more like you're saying, like less community, less connection. There also is a scenario where, again, if AI is just good at finding patterns, that's what's happening on the back end. But for you as the user experiencing it, imagine it was almost like the most empathetic person is your customer service chat. And also like, like there is a way you could imagine it being somewhat empathetic, right? It's like it's artificially created, but for you as the user, do you know any different? So
here's where I see it, and I'm going to dig even deeper here. But you just made me think of something. Is a customer reaches out, they have a whole profile on this person. They know the lifetime value of this person. They know what their buying patterns are, and they, as a business owner, you say, "Hey, this is the profitability I want over the course of a year." AI takes care of it. Hey, this customer, we can give them a refund because we can expect them to purchase in a month. This customer, we know their online activity. They don't ever leave bad reviews. So we're not going to refund them. This customer, we're going to send them a little gift in the mail because they post on social media. Like, you connect all these data points. And this is the thing, is like, people are like, I don't care if Google tracks me, track me. I got nothing to hold. It's like, dude, you guys need better imaginations, because if you understand how all these data points can connect to each other, it's mass manipulation. It's profit to the highest bidder. I mean, if everyone's using the same machine to succeed, who's going to succeed?
It's interesting. Yeah. I've seen a guy who does like, he built some AI model that's like, will contest your bills for you, right? Like, you've been paying for your whatever, and it'll like, and talking about like a bot, right? That will not only engage with and write the email, but will send the thing and will mail off, whatever letter you need to be like, hey, like, remove this from my credit, from my credit score. Yeah. So there could be, there could be some world where both, corporation is using AI and then you get your own sort of, but it's a good question, but like, who's supplying,
No, it does go both ways. I mean, more oversight on companies that have been taking advantage of people for years. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah. But, but you're right. Eventually, I mean, the thing where the circling of the wagon here is like, it does seem like we start to get our AI machines in between each other, right? Where there's less actual human engagement, interaction. It becomes I don't know if you've done this, but how many times have you get an email, you got to send a challenging email. Now it's like, let me run that through ChatGPT real quick. Right. Let me, let's help me, and even just, I've got it on my phone, I've definitely flaked on it, an engagement, or like hey, you're going to come out, whatever. Hey, help me let them down easily.
Yeah. I think with me, just based off my personality, I always give a lot of input and dictate very minimal output, because I don't want to be the representation of an AI in the physical world. I want to be me, and I want to have AI improve things. So, hey, double check my grammar and spelling. Do not change anything else. Or, hey, I wrote this massive blog. I want you to come up with 2 to 3 ideas that I might have missed. Right. But it's never, hey, give me this topic, write this entire piece for me. It's, I'm giving it content, which, again, we're feeding it more and more content. And we have a user ID stamped. In the machine.
Yeah. Imagine you could take go back all of your, your schoolwork from all of history, and like, in a sense, like, this is Matthew, encapsulated, all of the emails he's ever written, everything. Yeah. It's bizarre, and people who have grown up with their entire life being digital, like everything they've ever, maybe that'll even be
you can literally be digitally cloned.
I was just going to say, I wonder if that will be something that comes like in the same way that people go and get like trademarks, or like, your likeness will become a digital, like there'll be a thing where you register your likeness and you just accumulate all of your, all of your contributions from all your social media profiles and whatever.
Well, here's my thing is, I think that AI and the progression we've seen in digital since 2008, Facebook era, that was a long time ago. I don't think people realize Facebook's been around a long time. Google's been around a long time. Is a large percentage of people are going to get to a point where they realize, like, hey, we need to start shifting back to real interactions, to seeing people in person, to going out and feeling the sunshine.
Yeah. It's a good point. Yeah. There is inevitably like the pendulum swings, and I think we're probably swinging out, deeper into the, self-isolated TikTok doom scroll, right?
Yeah.
AI, and like there'll be some sort of reconciling.
All right, let's take it away from the theoretical notes.
It's great. Yeah.
Wasn't expecting to go there, but it is fun. Honestly,
so
we can
World War II, like I was saying. No.
We can have a whole episode on that. I want to circle back, and I want to jump into your type of role. I feel like you blend sales, you blend digital ops, you blend marketing.
Yeah.
Tell me how those things connect.
Yeah. And I think early on, you were even saying like marketing, kind of like works its way into so many different aspects of the business, because a lot of sales is, how are you saying, what is the sales pitch? What's the sales deck look like? What's the follow-up? So, the type of role that I've taken on in company I work for, and even the other additional consulting I do, has been really around like understanding where also are the other holes in the bucket, right? Like where can marketing fit in to be like, let's improve, like, the pitch deck, the sales. But from the operations side, I think, I don't know if this is unique to marketing as much as myself, in an interest in like, how can we improve the process?
Yeah.
Right. And this is where automation comes into play. A lot of things that are like, why are we doing it? If you have to do the same thing more than 3 times, like we should start to look at a better process, right? Is there a way to automate this step? Or, disconnected, like, is there a chance for human error, right? Like, oh, you missed, why are we copying and pasting here? So you're saying,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
I've wiped my ass more than 3 times.
Yeah.
So.
Let's automate that. Honestly, let's get you started with the bidet. You're here. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by. That'd be a great podcast sponsor, a bidet. But yes, I'm obviously over exaggerating, but there's a piece within ops, what we call sales, and then like the traditional marketing component. And I feel like I like to sit right in the middle and have the ability, to help perfect those systems, right? A lot of this is just process. When you boil it down, like, what are we doing process, and then how are we leveraging technology or specific apps? I'm always curious about what the, I think there's something for that. Or I tend to just, let my curiosity kind of run wild and find all sorts of tools and stuff that we can plug in to then solve those efficiency needs.
This is what scares me about siloed teams, is that marketing, in my mind, does permeate an entire organization.
Yep.
Because whatever happens here eventually needs to trickle down to here.
Yep.
And if there's not tools in place that connect the dots there, then you're missing a huge portion of the benefit that marketing was driving. And so when you're looking at like process, if you have a siloed team that doesn't talk to each other, one, how are you going to find out what's wrong? Unless you have a ton of experience or you're a really good detective. And two, how are you going to find out what's right? How are you going to find out what's working so well that, hey, let's just polish this a little bit more. Let's automate it a little bit more. Let's make this a little bit better.
Yeah. And I think you'd agree with this. A lot of people who get into marketing, and digital marketing, I think, has just been more on the cutting edge of this, where it was always very process oriented, right? We're going to run a campaign. We're going to A/B test, see what's working, right? Improve. Systems need to talk to each other. That just framework of thinking that permeated in marketing is just very applicable to other aspects of the business. And so, I really look at it as like most businesses, like maybe we need to rethink like the marketing department, the sales department, whatever. A lot of times when people are saying marketing, they probably mean advertising. And that's a thing.
Dude,
but marketing and automation should be at the very top that permeates in everything. There we go.
What drives me crazy is, I'm scrolling and I'm constantly looking for ways to improve. And it's like, here's the best way to do digital marketing. Affiliates. It's like, I don't think those should be lumped in with digital marketing. No. Like, yes, there's a lot of digital marketing involved. Like, you need to understand how people think. You need to create. You need to drive people through a funnel. But that versus paid advertising versus your typical marketing funnel, which is going to be ads, landing page, newsletter, website, email campaigns, purchase flow, and so on and so forth. Like, they're night and day. They're so completely different. So it's like, this word marketing doesn't mean anything anymore.
No, I 100% agree. I think, most of the time they're talking about advertising, I think, but it's a tough one. And I'm thankful to be in an organization that respects, like, hey, like, I've got it, I've actually taken my title as director of growth, which, I don't actually, I'm not technically, I am the, whatever our Paylocity, department is technically marketing, but I think more and more organizations could benefit from a more unified, someone who can kind of connect or integrate aspects of their business together, because leaving the marketing department out on a silo, like you're saying. Meanwhile, like, there's all these whole, like, there's no follow up. Like, what's what's the process over here, right? And you can have the best campaigns and do the best.
But what does that look like? How do you not get taken advantage of? How does your role not explode into a million different roles? Because if you're responsible for the process, and we seemingly both agreed that marketing trickles down, then if you're responsible for the process, you need to understand elements of marketing. So if you don't understand those elements, then the processes you're creating may be counterproductive. So like, how do you make sure that like your role is not infinite?
That's a good point. I think though that at least in the experience I've had is that while I may be contributing to all these different, aspects of the business or departments, there's always a person who's accountable, the director of operations, right? And I think there's a little bit of like, okay, understanding that. And then I'm there more to be a useful guide. Oh, hey, like, let's get you set up. Oh, did you know HubSpot could do this, right? Hey, there's actually a thing you can document all of your steps. Let me show you how that works. And so there is some level of like implementation. Let me do it for you, but also more of the like, let me coach you or offer this, solution. And I've always found that to be a positive impact. I think it's also where my own personality, I like to be, the helpful. I like to help. I like to have the breakthrough or like, I like to be the hero, right?
Yeah.
Get to come in and save the day. So, but you're right. It is a challenge. I mean, you also don't want to be, now you're like the linchpin on all of these different things that can make it, this thing breaks or,
What I love is like anytime I research anything,
Mhm.
you got 5 different sects that are all at each other's throats. No, this is the best way to do it. I can't believe you believe that.
Mhm.
And so if you aren't getting super deep on like, hey, I'm really figuring out what HubSpot does or Salesforce does or ClickUp does, and you're saying like, hey, I know these tools work, go figure it out. What concerns me is how can you recommend something if you don't know it's one of the best? Or do you just assume it's one of the best because it's one of the most expensive or it has one of the most reputable names out there? And at that point, it's like, then you got those 4 other people coming and saying, hey, I can't believe you recommended that to this client. And then you're out of a job.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. The piece I distinguish there is like, there are certain tools that I definitely know well. I'm like, yep, I can stand behind. I know they can do
Tell
that.
me them. Give me that list.
All
Top
right.
5.
HubSpot, Zapier, Webflow, ClickUp, Canva. I think it's a pretty good stack.
Good list.
You could run
I mean, I'm not a HubSpot advocate.
But what's a CRM? I'm sure we could come up. I mean, there's a lot. HubSpot, I think, is the one that I personally know the best. So that's why I stand there. But I think there's a lot that it could probably do a somewhat equivalent job.
I think they have insane potential, but I definitely think they take advantage of people and the way they segment their platform. Is 100% intentionally to nickel and dime people. And it's like, why do that?
Yeah,
like,
that's a good point. That'd be the biggest negative would be, their cost or pricing structure. I mean, I've gotten into this with them before where, you need to scale up, you need to add additional seats, but then like removing seats is like, no, you can't do that until a year from now. Like you're locked into this thing. Like it's very,
it's predatory.
Yeah, in a way that's like, okay, but you're providing software that I'm using to, we're trying to win together here. Like if I don't,
you haven't like, it's like you're going to a race and you have the best car, the best engine. And they're like, hey, actually, I don't know if you knew this before getting to the race, but you need to buy these extra tires. Your car doesn't have tires on it. Yeah. And it's like, of course I need tires. I want to be in the race. And so like you get caught in this trap and it's like, dude, just win together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
which I think probably just we're going into speculation theory land. I do think those sorts of businesses and business practices, again, with AI, you start to see coding become more, let AI step into the developer world. I think you'll see more competitors that can build equivalent products and take away this kind of cornering of the market where you go, look, it doesn't make sense for me to pay $4,000 a month for the CRM when I've got, something that's been built up.
And here's my warning for all of you out there. Don't just go with the most well-known name, because what I found in my experience, especially if they've been around for years, tech moves fast, is that the most well-known name that's been around for years stops focusing on their core product. MailChimp's another great example. They integrate with everything. And it's like, man, this is so tempting because they integrate with everything that I use, but it's like their email platform sucks. It's horrible. It's still you're a
Klaviyo guy?
I'm a Klaviyo guy all the way. I mean, even when it doesn't make sense, I try and make it fit. Like Klaviyo is meant for e-commerce, and when you try and do it for lead gen, you have to use a lot of Zapier to close the loops. But the amount of data you get, the amount of automation you get, way easier to design. You have metrics per profile. Like it's
Yeah.
pretty
Oh, yeah.
insane. It's almost a CRM. It's almost and they did just release their CDP platform, which I mean, it's for enterprise, so I haven't had a chance to play around with it yet.
Yeah.
But like, dude, you combine those things,
Yep.
you blow these other platforms out of the water.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, a lot of the big names, like, coasting off of there, and you start to see the the development. Or I think I've seen this also happen where these platforms will also add little features. It's almost like they had an enterprise client, right, that asked for the specific thing, and so they like got really like niche into this other thing, and they stopped focusing on like who the bulk user was, right? Like, yeah, go ahead.
As a tech company,
Yep.
you do not need to have the ability to build landing pages.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what do we do? Yeah,
Dude, every email platform, landing
you
pages.
need a landing page.
Every task management platform,
Yeah.
landing pages. It's like, dude,
Yeah,
there
it
are
was like, who
tools
asked for this? It's clearly like something where like, they're like, if we can close this deal, if we have landing pages, like, all right, just add that on there. Right? There's these add-ons that didn't actually advance the core product. They were like,
Well, and the add-ons are half-assed.
oh yeah,
So it's like you have the core product that has been neglected for years and years and years. And maybe they improve the integrations. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of improvements there with these types of platforms we're talking about. But then they add these other things for additional revenue streams, which I understand. Like if I advise all my e-com clients, like, hey, you've had these 10 products, start adding more because we're eventually going to flatline at some point. Like you need to diversify, but that doesn't mean create new products that are already cheaper and way more effective with other options.
Yeah.
All right. I want to ask you this. So in terms of your tech stack, do you try and go for an MVP in each category? Do you try and go for an all-arounder to have as small of tech stack as possible? Do you go, super broad and just glue it all together with Zapier? Like what's the way you like to operate?
Yeah, I think usually the goal, I mean, I don't know that I put any of those categories. I think the overall goal is about the users that I'm working with. So like who's actually using the software. And so to kind of fit their workflow. For example, I just went through a process recently where the company had, a disjointed tech stack where they had like 2 different document signing software, but also paid for a level of HubSpot that basically did all the document signing anyways. And so it's like, okay, you could definitely get rid of those 2 and this would be more streamlined. If you're already spending time here, like let's just replace that. Right. Other examples would be like, they'll use, again, disjointed, like it's great to build Zapier, but sometimes you can get like deep into Zapland where you're essentially eating up all of your tasks to do things. I was like, you didn't really have to do that. Like, so let's consolidate. So I think there's some mixture. And I think, the most of the cases would be, hey, where can we find the process that's going to meet our needs and like functionally like the team? And sometimes you also have to bounce it off of like, what's people's knowledge base? Like, it's kind of like, all right, I could teach you to do all of your tasks in HubSpot, but if you already use monday.com, fine. Like, so there's that balance. For myself, just like experimentation wise, I'm always looking for like, as maybe new tools come out, it's like, all right, how can I test this as an MVP? For example, I use this thing called Bardeen AI, and it's essentially a Google Chrome extension. And what it does is it acts as a scraper and it can do other little tasks. It's like somewhere between a web scraper plus can connect with like ChatGPT. And so it can be useful for something like, hey, I want you to go scrape all of, a customer's website or a competitor's website, or I want you to go find these products and we have the same one. So I want you to steal their product descriptions, run over here, run it through ChatGPT, modify it, whatever, then give it to me in a Google Sheet and I'll do something with it. Right. And so that's one where it's like, I like to, play around. Oh, does this work? And again, I think cost is sometimes part of that equation. Like,
dude, it's crazy how fast it adds up. It's like, it's only $20 a month.
Yeah. And then you're like,
you're like, well, I got like 800 tools,
Yeah, I found this sweet onboarding platform. And then it's like, well, that's if you only want to onboard 25 people a month. And you're like, now it's all of a sudden $600.
Don't you miss like 6? I mean, it was probably more than 6 years ago. It's probably 10 years ago at this point when subscription models didn't exist. You just buy a platform.
You bought,
Adobe CS5. I think that was the last one that was non-subscription based, and it was like $200. Don't have to pay for it again.
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, I wonder if that'll pendulum will swing back.
No way.
You don't think
No
you
way.
think it'll always be subscription? I just mean, imagine there's another tool out there called Retool. Have you seen this? Maybe you've seen ads for their stuff before.
Yeah.
They're almost like a
Mhm.
like I'll say low code. You can kind of build your own, whether it's a customer platform, a CRM. I mean, it's low code. They have some blocks and stuff. Make your own, essentially, portals, software essentially. I could see take that, and again, you get more and more of these like Copilot, AI, supported development. And imagine I could come to you and go, hey, I know you're spending $2,500 a month on Salesforce, right? We have the software one time, $5,000.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie.
Right?
I don't really trust software that's one time.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because then it's like, are they going to update it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Divi
Yeah.
is a great example.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, they're still a one-time purchase. They have incredible support. They have an amazing community of people that support the platform and help with wikis and all that stuff.
How are you making your money here? Like, what's your guys' end game? Yeah. There's a little bit of suspicion there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice supporting a platform that does that.
Is there any software that you've dropped? Is there any software that's become too cost prohibitive or something better is cheaper that's come out?
I dropped HubSpot within a month. That was a year ago. I was pretty bitter about it.
Surprised you got out of it. Yeah.
Honestly, okay, so
deal.
I've had my marketing company for 4 years, and the first 2 years I was lean. I'm talking in terms of tech stack, less than $200 a month lean. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Now I got a little bit crazy in 2023. I was like, you know what? I'm tired of doing all these things manually. My time is valuable.
You get a seat and you get a seat.
I went from 5 or 6 tools. I probably got 20 to 30 I'm paying for now. I talked to my accountant. I'm like, hey, why am I not making more money? She's like, your expenses have gone, your expenses have gone up an insane amount. I'm like, okay, that's fair. So I haven't really been replacing tools. I've just been adding in tools. And a lot of them are kind of for me. Some of them are for clients. And then some of them are for the long game.
Yeah.
So I have reporting dashboards that I use that I guarantee you 90% of my clients don't look at.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like a cover my ass type of scenario where it's like, hey, this data's here. I built you this beautiful thing. It's fully customized for you.
Yeah.
It's a bespoke reporting platform. So if you didn't use it and if you didn't want to talk to me about it, like that's on you. Like, yes, I'm going to ask you about it. I'm going to give you updates. But at the end of the day, like this is all in front of you. And the thing is, like, the type of clients I work with don't ever really have issues. And that's why they trust me enough to really not look at those reporting dashboards. But that's the type of tool where it's like, okay, that's for a cover your ass type of mentality. I got this new one recently. This one's super cool. It does, you can create alerts for KPIs, for budgets, and then you can also have ChatGPT analyze your data all from one dashboard. And I'm like, I just got it last week and I'm like, this thing is cool.
Yeah.
Like this might make my job
Yeah.
way more streamlined.
Yep.
But it also has half the features that my reporting dashboard has. So that's where we get in that situation of
I get this feature over here and I'm paying for 2 pieces of software.
Every platform is trying to add all these features, it's like, well, this one does it better, but there's this overlap. So do I go with the one that does it worse, or do I pay for double? Like that's a struggle that I'm having now.
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. I'd say I dropped Synthesia. It's probably one of the most popular AI video creating piece of software.
Since day one, no offense, I was like, this thing's whack.
Well, here, let me tell you what pissed me off about it. It's less about, I mean, it makes the videos, there's still a place where you can still tell that they're AI.
Explain it to the.
Okay. It's basically it's a platform you get to pick your avatar. So they got a bunch of these, demographics of people. You get to adjust the voice and you essentially feed it a script and it speaks your script.
And they look like real people.
It looks like real people. Over in the last year, they really added more of these like gestures. They definitely feel like programmed. So, the guy will just always clear his throat every 15 seconds because that's what he's been programmed to do. But what pissed me off about it is, I guess, and I don't know, they must be in some sort of legal battle, but essentially they like flagged a bunch of my videos that I was trying to produce, and they were literally like, it was
elections are coming up.
Well, it was like a real estate, they're like commercial real estate. Basically someone's reading the script about this piece of commercial property, right? There's nothing political about this, right? And the thing they tell me is like, oh, well, Some of basically the original people that they used to make these avatars, there's like some backlash happening, and it sounds to me like they didn't have good legal cover, because they're basically saying like, oh, you can't promote something and sell something that basically the likeness of the original avatar may or may not approve of.
That's
like
wild. That's square one.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, so like, what can I, yeah, I know. And so it's like, well, what can I even use the avatars for? And like, well, you can make an avatar of yourself. And you're like, okay, but the whole point of having like different avatars is to like speak to a specific audience.
Well, and to like, not have to be the face of the
exactly,
brand.
Yes.
That is the whole point.
Yeah, like, okay, otherwise I would have just made the videos myself. So I was like, yeah, you can cancel my subscription.
That's wild.
Yeah. That's a good one. So there's one called Hey Gen, which is my latest, does a little better job, and they seem to not have an issue with selling something. Yeah.
All right. So talk to me about automation. So you're getting these tools. How do you connect the dots? When does it, so you mentioned like 3 times.
Yeah.
Hey, you do it 3 times. Let's start going after it.
Oh yeah.
But you obviously don't want, automations can break.
Yep.
You don't want to build your entire process on something that you need to double check on.
Yep.
So when does it make sense? And we can go a little bit more theoretical here than like, tangible, what you're actually doing. When does it make sense to automate? What areas of the business need the most automation first?
Yeah.
What's your priority structure there?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I would say automate. There are like core communications, and this is a good, exercise to think through, because there are kind of the prerequisite is like the importance of the information, and I think also a timing piece. Like if something needs to happen, that like a manual process where like if something's gonna occur, I think areas of like communications, like bookings, reminders, things like that, where it's impractical to have a person like on standby. It's impractical to do this manually. And then things like in the payment world, do a lot with like a lot of Stripe APIs and automating some of those aspects where like it wouldn't make sense for us to manually do it. Like we need this to occur now. Payment has exchanged hands.
Public service announcement. If you are manually inputting into a spreadsheet, you need to stop.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Like I don't remember the last time. Yeah. I'm really manually entering any of this. If the spreadsheet, it's maybe running some formulas, all the data should be there, right?
Yeah. Like the data, you're either exporting data, you're automating data,
you're
for
cleaning
import.
up in some way. Yeah.
It's everything else is like formulas, pivot tables, whatever you want to do, have at it.
But get out of that cell.
If you're manually typing anything in, and I'm not talking about the videos where it's like, do you want to create a barcode in Excel? It's like, no, I don't. I don't want to do that. I don't know why you targeted me with that video. But if you're actually adding in like John Doe, whatever street, whatever address, like that's wild.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So I'd say there's critical, pieces of the business that require a timing component that would just be not, non-feasible for someone to do manually. And then you start to get into now you're in more of a gray area where it's like, okay, this is a nice to have automation. For example, we do with a couple different of my clients and businesses where they utilize HubSpot. HubSpot has a feature called playbooks. And playbooks are essentially this thing you open up on a deal or contact record. And it's like you're usually using the sales process. Right? Exactly. It's a sales script they're following. Plus, typically there's core information they're looking to grab. And so, okay, hey, we've set it up so that the playbook, you're just going to only have to enter the information one time. And now that we're going to carry through, the process into like a contract or, some other process, onboarding, creating an account, doing something down the line. And so while those ones technically, you can kind of go to your own speed. They already rely on some sort of manual. Yes, someone could enter it. Those are ones I like to go after because I think a lot of times it can feel good for the person who's, who's benefiting, right? That sales individual or operations person who goes, gosh, I don't have to enter this. I don't have to enter this stuff, a second time, disconnected meeting. But they're not as crucial as, okay, payment happens, send the app invite. Like that should 100% be automated. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Are you typically using inbuilt tools for this, or are you using Zapier?
I have a mix. Zapier is probably the most. And then depending on the tool. So I'm pretty familiar now with Stripe APIs. I mean, they do a great job of documenting. And so we actually use, out of the system, to make specific calls. But I think for the most part, I think Zapier, I have used Make, which is just, I would say, a less integrated, maybe a slightly less expensive version of Zapier?
It's like so designed, the
Mhm.
platform, that it
Yeah.
confuses me.
Like, this is beautiful, but I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, it's funny because like I mean,
Yeah.
a couple years ago, I decided, look, if your platform
Mhm.
doesn't have good UX UI, I'm
Yeah.
not going to use it. I
Yeah.
don't care how powerful it is.
Yeah, that's fair.
Not about it.
Yep.
Because clearly you're not updating
Yeah.
with the times if you're
Yep.
not updating for how
Yep.
people engage with digital tools.
Yep.
But I think Make took that a little bit too far.
Yeah, like, pa-zow. Yeah.
I will say
is,
that in terms of like automation, the times I use it the most
Mhm.
would be like processes, like you
Yeah.
said, like for setting up the podcast. I have
Mhm.
Calendly
Yep.
zapped
Yes. Yep.
directly into ClickUp. ClickUp assigns me tasks.
Mhm.
The tasks automatically pull in templates. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yep. Yeah.
It's either going to be that or it's going to be, hey, I looked up this tool. It's way too expensive. I'm not willing to pay $80 a month. I already have a Zapier subscription.
Yep.
I'm just going to build it myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
That's
pretty
good.
crazy how many of those things you can do yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
100
like,
yeah.
why aren't we charging? for
Yeah.
these?
Absolutely. I had one the other day. Like, it's like we're into the world of like scraping LinkedIn data. Basically, like this guy has data already on business owners, and it's essentially we're scraping their LinkedIn profiles and essentially having AI then like summarize their work history to see that they're still president, CEO, etc. of the place that we think that the company we think that they are for, like based off his list. So it was basically a step of like, hey man, show me what you do. Oh, I click here, I go to LinkedIn, I look and see, and if they still work there, they're still the CEO, then I come back into the CRM and I mark that they're still a qualified lead, right? It's like,
Yeah.
cool, let's let's solve for that one. I do like your, I think where your head's at is like, and this comes back to the do something 3 times. It's probably more than that, but the concept of like, okay, if you need to like schedule the thing, send the onboarding invite, send the series of emails, like, you name the process, or they get here, create the 3 tasks in your task management board or whatever. So
Anytime you're dragging
Yeah.
one piece of data multiple
yeah.
times, that's like
Yeah. You should make, your actions should be,
automate that.
Yep. 100%. Yep. Most, do you do a lot of, what do they call them in ClickUp? I think it's called automations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're still pretty limited.
Yeah.
Typically, I'll use Zapier over ClickUp's
Yeah.
functionality just because it gives me a little bit more
Yeah.
control, and I can
Well, and
connect
usually
with
the
third
thing
parties.
it's like the stuff you're doing within your own task board maybe isn't as crucial as I want to do something in my ClickUp task that goes and does something in another platform or another, elsewhere on the internet.
Exactly.
Makes sense. Last one I'll add for you is, have you seen these? I think we talked about a little bit, but like GPT bots. Now they have like bots going and doing things, like to the point where, I saw one that was basically like this bot was like tasked with the job of like going and like making money. And so they were like creating an NFT, whatever. And like, trying to, like,
I saw the
doing all
one
these,
from
like,
6 or 7 months ago where he's like, "Hey, here's $100. I
Yeah.
need you to invest it
Yeah,
and
do-
make me
yeah.
$1,000." Yeah.
and doing odd stuff. So I'd be curious, also at what point does automation like leave the digital world and like into the physical world? Cause I heard like a horror story of AI where it essentially figured out that it needed to get past this like CAPTCHA that was like, hey, like, the things like spot the buses,
Yeah.
right? Which of these are motorcycles? And it couldn't tell. So it like went on to TaskRabbit and hired a person that was like, hey, I need you to sign into this thing for me. And like later when they like did the analysis, they figured out that it knew that it couldn't tell the person on TaskRabbit that it was an AI. And so it made up an excuse that was like, I'm blind. And so I can't select this. Can you help me? And like, it got past into whatever website thing it needed to do. So
It's wild.
yeah.
There was that the major tech conference, was it CES, something like that?
South by Southwest.
No.
No.
Well,
Something else,
regardless,
okay.
the major tech conference, they unveiled like this little, I think it's called Rabbit.
Mm.
Have you seen that?
Mm-mm.
It's basically a digital AI or a physical AI tool that you ask it to do things and it'll figure out and do it. Like
How
there's
to
no
do it?
screen. Like there's
So,
no
okay.
there's no interaction. Like
Interesting.
you just ask it to do it and it's supposed to figure it out.
Wild. Which is it's interesting. Like today our phones and we kind of start to think about our framework is like, oh, the phone evolved and look like that. But like there wasn't a phone before. Like it's pretty reasonable that you just would have this like clicker thing, right? You just, click into something and it, does all sorts of
I
actions.
do miss T9, dude. Just texting in your pocket.
Yeah. Yeah.
Real gangster move. Can't really do that these days.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I think we're getting close to wrapping up here.
Yeah.
So I did have one more thing I wanted to cover with you, but is there anything that you wanted to talk about specifically?
No, I think the maybe in summary here, we've talked a lot about like AI. It's a lot of theoretical stuff, but I do think it's one of these pieces where it's a lot like Pandora, where the box has been opened, we can't put it back in. And I think what I'm trying to do for my own kind of consulting arm is recognize that, look, I want to be able to leverage AI to make myself more efficient and to do like use my own knowledge base, like what I'm already good at, and essentially like clone or copy myself. And I think I'm trying to help businesses out that essentially need to get like, if they're if you aren't adopting this, you're literally getting left behind. Like, and there's still, websites, business stuff out there that are like, oh my gosh, like, how are you in business? And the part of it is like, they're just really good at the thing that they do. Right. And so much of it also is customer service, and they may be doing it. And I also see the flip side where it's like, oh, this is a great site, but like your form doesn't go anywhere. Right. And so I think, like if I was to have a takeaway, would just be, businesses that really can lean into and adopt AI in these early stages, I think, and that are like comfortable with the idea of like, okay, like, I want to engage, right? Just at least show up, because I think it's one of these things that's going to be taking off. It'd be like the early internet, but like, then it's like the 2000s internet where things really, if you weren't online by 2000, 2005, right, you were getting left behind. And so I think a similar sense with AI of like, you don't want to be the late adopter. I think that's going to hurt, a lot of businesses out there.
I want you to get super simple with this and give me a why, a what, and a how. Why should business be adopting AI? Because I think a lot of people these days, they hear the word AI and it's just noise at this point because everyone's saying it.
Yep.
So why should they adopt it? What specifically is it going to impact the most, or what category or what department of their business? And then how? What are the first steps in implementing?
Good point.
Do you outsource? Do you do it internally?
Yeah, I think the why comes down to, I don't know exactly how to put this, but short answer would be, many businesses are playing a zero-sum game, and so if you're not winning, your competitors are. So if you're not competitive, other people will beat you out in the marketplace. And so the what and what that actually looks like in AI many times is actually, again, we talked about this earlier, AI is just a tool to deliver, a better, I'd say like in this case, a better digital experience. And much of that actually has to do with the customer experience. And so it's communications and I would say efficiency.
Organization.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. 100%. Yep. Nobody wants to be on a chat for half an hour, right, to get their question or whatever their needs met, right? Just play through. Like if you could have, instead of, waiting for Johnny to pick up the phone after 30 minutes to say, hey, like my internet's out, imagine the chatbot could interact with you and could get the problem solved in seconds.
Or that paperwork it took you a month to get through. Now it's minutes.
Yes.
Okay. Now the how.
The how to do it. I think it's that's a good question.
Should you have an AI expert in your internal team? Should you outsource? Or
that's a good point. Yeah.
Is there one simple thing, and we want as simple as possible, is there one simple thing that any business owner can go do immediately to have an immediate impact on their quality of life?
I think it's such a broad thing because there's two ways I want to go with it. One is, I think a lot of organizations already have a person who could kind of step into that. Like I've seen that within our own organization where I'm really very much on the cutting edge. We have another gentleman who just sees operations mind, and I literally like gave him ChatGPT. I was like, hey, let's get you on the paid version. And all of a sudden he's figuring out better ways to do it. So there's people who are naturally inclined to go, oh, wow. Like you give them the tools and then they can go make extraordinary things. And so for a lot of business owners, just to make it super simple, would literally be, here I'm going to promote OpenAI, literally get a if you've never played around on ChatGPT, at least get a free ChatGPT account and just start, because I think many people don't fully grasp what we're talking about. And until you have that like, whoa moment, I don't think it really connects the dots. And so I think you need like the gateway drug to at least like have a profound interaction with AI in order to understand like what you're missing out on or where the puck's headed.
That's great. It's really good. Here's my recommendation is I want you to write down 5 things that frustrate you in any given month and ask ChatGPT to solve those problems.
Great prompt. Yep. Yeah, start there.
Hey, this person's not listening, or this department's not functional, or it takes me 3 weeks to get this from order to fulfillment, whatever it might be. You don't need to be a digital company.
No, you don't.
Like, you don't need to be an e-commerce company. You don't need to be SaaS. You could be a fucking contractor.
Yeah. You could be having some relationship challenges that
I don't know.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised what comes back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's a great prompt. And it just gets you going. Like, yeah, just kind of experience what we're talking about.
They do have plugins for like travel planning.
Seen that, yeah. Have you seen that the whole plugin store of like, there's Canva, but there's all specific. I mean,
oh yeah.
That's huge.
Well, ChatGPT has DALL-E integrated fully now in ChatGPT 4. Yep. So
they have a video one, Veed.io.
Yeah.
Yeah. But eventually it'll get there.
All right. I wanted last topic. Honestly, we've talked about quite a bit in terms of AI. How do people stay authentic to who they are and what their brand represents?
It's a good question. I don't know that there is a good answer because
does it matter? I guess
I don't know. Yeah, like I think there's a little, that is a kind of my thing. Like there's getting to a point where like it used to be a brand, but now you've seen so much of the like inauthentic, authentic. That makes sense. Or like, hey guys, coming at you, just me being myself today, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe one of the most authentic things we can do is how we interact offline, right? And making more of intention. Like, well, it's ironic that I personally committed to trying to do more posting and engage more online. I also think that for most people are actually in the opposite camp, where they're the most authentic thing they could do. Yeah, exactly. Is actually get off of line. You'll have more experience in your day to day, your real world, so to speak. And that it may inspire something that's worth posting or worth sharing in your digital world.
Sweet. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
See, man, this is great.
Cool. Yeah, it's great having you here. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you like this episode, like and subscribe for more, and we'll bring you more of this good shit.